Hi, this is Lori Seaman. I work at the Russiaville Branch and also at the South Branch, and this is Turn the Page. And today we're going to talk about some of the events that we have coming up with the Iditarod sled dog race, which begins March 5th. But specifically what we're going to talk about, and here's some pages from a book that we're going to do a books discussion at Russiaville on March 28th. On Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. We would love to have you join us, and also encourage you to take a look at our Explore Your Opportunities program directory that you should have received in the mail in the last couple weeks, and so that's got all the programs for all three branches. So anyhow, let's take a look at Ice Island by Sherry Shahan, and let's turn the page. They never got through to the North Slope, but Mom gave in. We both know what Dad would say. She said that while rubbing Bandit's head so hard, Tatum thought her dog would get a bald spot. This was really hard for Mom. Tatum found Cole's phone number in Mary Ann's address book. He told her to pack like it was a real race. Extra socks and a headlamp, if you have one, he said, and a big plastic mug. Tatum unloaded her duffel, spreading everything on the bed. Heat packets, matches, 2 pairs of wool socks, a fleece-lined face mask, goggles, a hair scrunchie, and extra batteries for her headlamp. She talked to Bandit the whole time, although she was really talking to herself, afraid she'd forget something. Trail Mix made a high-powered snack, nuts for protein, M&Ms for energy, and pretzels just because. She wrapped a loaf of French bread in heavy foil, then found a small packet of carrots in the freezer. Most everything fit in her backpack. Dog food and Bandit bowl went inside a garbage bag. It would all go in her sled, except for Bandit's carrots. They would be in her pocket. A floodlight lit Cole's yard, turning the snow a runny egg yolk yellow. "Hey," she hollered. He was fastening a ski pole to the side of his sled with duct tape. Ski poles made trusty walking sticks. Tatum figured he'd packed a camp stove, sleeping bag, snowshoes, and other gear to make sure the sled had the same weight as it would during the race. "Most of these guys are my uncle's dogs," Cole said. "He names them after Alaskan mountains. I'm taking 7 dogs to Kotzebue." "That's all?" she said. 3 more are waiting for me there. A friend's dogs. I worked with them last summer. They pulled a cart with wheels. The rules say no fewer than 7 dogs and no more than 10. "So they've all raced before?" "All but Wolf, and he thinks he's the boss because he's the biggest. But I raised Wrangel and Alyeska. They're both smarter. I usually hitch up the cat, but her harness is broken." Tatum laughed and glanced from dog to dog. She wondered if any of their ancestors had been in the original Sarum race. One of the history lessons that covered the Klondike Gold Rush, which had begun in the late 1890s. In those days, dog teams hauled ore, mail, supplies, and people. Later, airplanes took over the mail routes, and gold fever cooled down. She petted the mismatch of huskies. They weren't any different from the dogs she'd seen in the Iditarod. She wished her gloves had fur so she could turn them inside out. The thermometer on her parka read 20 below. Ursa maritimus could freeze out here, she thought, feeling bad that the rogue bear had to be shot. So Ursa maritimus is a scientific word for polar bear. Cole hitched 4 dogs to each sled. Wrangel took the lead on his. Brooks chewed the tug line that connected Alyeska's harness to the gang line, and Denali chewed on Alyeska's ear. Wolf took position as a swing dog. Let's go a little further in our book and see what's happening now. Tatum's 3 dogs were jumping around in their harness. Alyeska barked louder, demanding, "Where have you been?" Tatum pulled them into a group hug and let them lick her face. "I love you too." Then she headed toward the sled and stopped. The sled hadn't moved, but something dark and bulky lurked on the far side. She watched nervously as the shadow turned into a hulking giant. "Wolf!" She yanked off her glove. "No!" He was circling the sled dog, tense and suspicious. Tatum took one slow, careful step, then another, afraid of spooking him, and suddenly his great wolf head was inside the canvas basket. Bandit made a low, guttural sound. Tatum screamed inwardly, taking another careful step. Wolf lifted his head from the sled and snarled a warning. His eyes were dark slits. "Attack me if you want," she said, lurching forward, and she smacked him across the nose. "But stay away from Bandit and her puppies." So, Ice Island is a book that talks about Alaska, the Inupiat tribe and their cultures, and also about survival and adventure. And so this is an amazing book to read. We have limited copies available at the Russiaville Branch, so stop out and check one out for us to join us for our book discussion in March. If you go to one of the other branches, we're happy to send one to one of the other branches for you to pick up. So anyhow, thanks again for watching Turn the Page.